Welcome to the Support Staff General Safety Training for Office and Store Support. Today's training will provide you with information on multiple topics to help keep you safe while working with Coborns. These will include Coburn's approach to safety, the Workplace Accident and Injury Reduction Program, office and work from home safety, store visit and support safety guidelines, employee right to know and hazard communication, emergency preparedness, and finally, COVID-19 safety reminders. Coborn's Incorporated is committed to providing its employees with a safe and healthy working environment and working toward zero workplace accidents and injuries. We promote a start fresh with safety philosophy, meaning we want our employees to focus on safety and the task at hand, review all safety procedures, evaluate safety practices, suggest safety improvements, and help maintain compliance and implement new ideas. We promote safe work habits through education, training, recognition, safety committees, emergency response teams, and department safety discussions. Employees are expected and required to observe and follow safety rules at all times. 90% of all injuries are resulted of unsafe acts. If you are the only one that can change that, by remaining focused on safety, we can help reduce accidents and injuries. Another way Coburn's focuses on employee safety is through the AWARE program. AWARE stands for a Workplace Accident and Injury Reduction Program. Although a Minnesota requirement, we have adopted this as the backbone of our safety program and use it at all facilities regardless of their location. The AWARE program defines responsibilities for all levels of the organization and how we will identify and control hazards and communicate that information to employees. It also explains enforcement policies. To ensure employees are familiar with and accountable for the contents of the program, each employee will receive a copy upon hire. The program is also available on the company intranet under the Safety Center. Coborn's believes that all employees are responsible for safety. We focus on empowering employees to create a safer working environment by taking immediate personal action to eliminate and reduce hazards. As an employee, you must attend and participate in all safety training sessions, including this general safety training, as well as job-specific sessions. Comply with all company safety rules, safety policies, and OSHA regulations. Violating our safety policies by performing unsafe acts, not wearing personal protective equipment that's required, or operating equipment without guards in place will result in disciplinary action. You should also keep your work location and apartment clean and orderly. This will not only help prevent injuries, but will increase productivity. You should immediately report all injuries, accidents, and near misses and unsafe working conditions to your supervisor and participate in accident investigations as required. Another important way that you can help increase safety in your site is to fix or remove basic hazards such as spills, debris on floors, flipped or buckled rugs, or etc. For more complex hazards, please isolate the hazards if needed and report to your supervisor immediately. We also encourage you to give kudos recognitions to your coworkers for their efforts towards creating a safe working and shopping environment by using the safety and well-being value in Coburn's kudos. We want all employees to have the mindset, safety hazards and accidents, not on my watch. The main responsibility of supervisors is to be accountable for the safety of their employees and enforcement of rules and policies. To let them know what is expected and to hold them accountable for those expectations, this includes but is not limited to facilitating safety training for all new and existing employees, acknowledge safe work habits and employees who comply with all company safety rules, safety policies, and OSHA regulations. We must also counsel employees for safety violations. Ensure the safety equipment and personal protective equipment is available, used in good working order. Ensure work areas stay clean and orderly and assist in performing safety inspections and audits. Address all safety concerns reported by staff. Ensure injuries are reported and followed up within 24 hours. Ensure all corrective actions for safety hazards are promptly implemented. And supervisors and managers are also responsible for training their staff for the proper use of personal protective equipment in their area. Make sure you bring up any safety concerns to your supervisor. To help create a safe work environment and ensure safety practices are being observed, each location has a safety committee. This committee reviews monthly safety inspections and helps champion safety at the location. Support Services Center locations have one safety committee that meets monthly at the CSC in St. Cloud. We encourage you to report safety concerns and suggestions to the safety manager. This can be done by phone at 320-203-6313 or by email at russell.thean@coburnsinc.com. Your safety and health is important to us, and you have the right to report work-related injuries and illnesses without fear of retaliation. Accordingly, we ask that you promptly report any work-related injury or near miss within 24 hours so that we may investigate the circumstances that caused the incident and take corrective actions if required. When people think of office work, they don't usually picture a hazardous working environment like a forge or a construction site, but sedentary work does come with its own set of hazards. In the next few slides, we will discuss some of these hazards, including electrical safety, ergonomics, housekeeping, and slip trip fall. It is important to always consider electrical safety when working in the office and at home. Make sure that electrical cords and plugs at your workstation are in good condition. If you notice damaged insulation, such as cuts or cracks or insulation pulled back from plugs, replace them immediately or contact IT if present at the office. Also look to make sure that no ground pins are missing from your plugs. Damaged insulation and missing ground pins can result in shock and electrocution hazards. You should also ensure that no space heaters are being used at the office. These have been shown to result in electrical and fire hazards in the office setting and are not allowed at Coburn's Incorporated facilities. Please contact your supervisor if you have concerns with temperature levels in your work area. Finally, never plug one power strip into another power strip. This is called daisy chaining and can result in amperage overload with possible fire and electrical hazards. Probably one of the biggest safety concerns when working in an office setting is ergonomics. Improper workstation design and layout can result in serious, sometimes lifelong injuries or illnesses. Common office ergonomic risk factors include awkward sustained postures, contact stress, and repetition. The optimal body positioning that will result in the least amount of pain and discomfort is called a neutral body position. When sitting at a desk, this includes elbows, back, and knees at 90 to 110 degrees. Your neck should be straight up and down with the eyes viewing the top 1 to 2 inches of the screen, and the screen should be about an arm's length away from you or about 15 to 30 inches from your eyes. You should also have good lumbar and back support. Some common awkward sustained postures include extending forward your reach to keyboard and mouse. Reaching forward can cause muscle tension between the shoulder blades and the neck, especially when the posture is sustained over time. Bending forward at the waist during sitting can also cause some issues. This happens when feet are not supported and puts pressure on the lumbar discs. Shoulders shrugged upward happens when the keyboard and mouse is too tall for the user. You should also consider how your hand is on the mouse itself. You should have your wrist at 180 degrees, both right to left and up and down. Any deviation from that can cause wrist pain, and having your fingers curled up on the too small of a mouse can also result in finger pain. Another ergonomic risk factor is contact stress. This is pressure on the body by a hard edge or surface. This can reduce circulation and obstruct nerve signals, leading to swelling, tingling, or discomfort. Make sure to adjust your desk surface so arms are not contacting the surface during typing. Use a wrist rest and rest weight on meaty part of palm to prevent pressure on the nerve. Adjust the seat pan to allow for 1 to 2 inches of space between the seat and the calf. Repetitive motion is another very common ergonomic risk factor. Common examples include repetitive mouse use, typing, and reaching. When using your mouse, make sure you have the proper size mouse and your wrist is at 180 degrees. When typing, your wrist should also be at 180 degrees. Try to limit abduction and adduction by allowing your hands to float while typing rather than resting your wrists. Finally, position the most frequently used items close by in the optimal reach section, with those used less often further to the back. When working from home, it's very important you position your workstation properly. Designate a work area for work only if possible. Place books under your laptop to allow for a neutral neck posture. The top 1 to 2 inches of the screen should be at eye level unless you have bifocals as seen in the picture. Bring your office keyboard and mouse home to maintain the neutral 180 degrees at the wrist. Use books and 3-ring binders as necessary for needed leg support. And finally, keep immediate work area clear of cords and unnecessary objects to reduce trip hazards and fall hazards. Good housekeeping in the office is also very important to reduce slip, trip, and fall injuries. To help achieve this, keep workstation clear and orderly. Place coat and bags in the cubicle locker to reduce trip and fall hazards. When walking in the parking lot, be aware of surface conditions and modify your walking appropriately. Walk like a penguin on ice and snow and wear appropriate footwear for the weather. Make sure to park far enough away from the sidewalk to allow room for snow clearing equipment during the winter. In providing store support, you may perform job duties that have specific safety hazards. Common examples include use of box cutters, lifting product, and ladder use. Only approved box cutters may be used on site. These include Pacific Handy S4, S5, and S7 knives. Make sure to angle the cut away from your body when opening boxes. Replace blades often and dispose of old blades in the blade disposal containers. When lifting, always make sure to crouch down to the object and keep it as close to your body as possible throughout the lift. Bend at the knees and not the back. Finally, always inspect a ladder before use to check for cracks, splits, bends, or missing hardware. When using the ladder, keep your weight centered between the ladder side rails and never lean outward. Step ladders must be used in the open position, never leaning the step ladder against a wall or shelf. Finally, never step off a ladder onto the displays or racking. When providing store support, look out for the hazards below that can result in slip, trip, and fall injuries. Immediately correct or report the hazards to a team member when observed. Rugs with flipped corners or buckled sections, pick mats with frayed loose ends, pallet guards missing on pallet drops, puddles of standing water from snow or ice melt. Spills, make sure to isolate the area and call for a team member, never leave a spill unattended. And means of egress. Blocked emergency exits and aisles can result in fire hazards. Move if possible or contact a team member if not.
Some chemicals have the potential to cause fires or explosions, and improper handling may cause serious accidents and injuries, so it's important to understand the chemicals you work with. One way to learn the critical information about the chemicals you work with is by reading the chemical labels. Right to know laws require that all chemical containers be labeled, including secondary containers and spray bottles you place chemicals in for use. The label must include the name of the chemical, the manufacturer, a signal word, and pictograms and hazard statements that identify the chemical hazards. Household chemicals and cleaners that are commonly available to shoppers will also be labeled. As with other chemicals, employees should read and adhere to guidelines on these labels as well. Another means of obtaining information is a safety data sheet, or SDS. The SDS contains information about usage, protective equipment, and safety guidelines for the chemicals used in the workplace. By law, an SDS must be available for every chemical used at the location. It's important for you to know where the SDSs are located and review them prior to using any chemicals, especially the first time. SDSs follow a universal design, so no matter what SDS you look at, the information will always be in the same area. Safety data sheets at Coburn's Inc. locations can be accessed on the company intranet. First, go to coburnsinc.com, click Employee Sign-In, and then enter your employee number and password. Next, click Resources, mouse over Safety Center, and then click your location. It could be SDS All Locations, SDS Bake Shop, SDS Hornbachers, or SDS Pharmacy. In this example, we have selected a Hornbacher's location. If we wanted to figure out the drain treatment chemical, we would click on that chemical and a new window would pop up with a PDF of that SDS. This next section covers bloodborne pathogens and how we can work as safely as possible in an environment which may bring us into contact with infected blood or bodily fluids. Bloodborne pathogens are defined as microorganisms present in human blood or bodily fluids that can cause infections or serious disease. While the likelihood is low, employees do have the potential to come into contact with bloodborne pathogens during a medical emergency, accident, or if a guest or employee becomes ill. Coburn's has an exposure control plan as part of its Right to Know compliance manual. This plan is to provide safe practices for handling hazardous material, communicating the hazards, and providing training. In addition, it provides for counseling and treatment in the event of possible exposures. This plan is available to all employees upon request. There are a few basic steps all employees should take to protect themselves from bloodborne pathogens in the event that you come into contact with blood or bodily fluids. Always assume that all blood or bodily fluids may be infected and take precautionary measures to minimize your exposure. In the event of a medical emergency, your responsibility is to contact the location director or manager on duty and seal off the area to avoid exposure to other guests. Make sure you know the location of the first aid kit and infection control kit, and familiarize yourself with their contents. Always use the Good Samaritan law as a guide. Provide reasonable aid or comfort the guest to the best of your ability. Notify emergency services if needed. Influenza and the common cold are illnesses we have learned to prepare for each year, but with the outbreak of the coronavirus, those measures we take to stay safe are more important than ever. With regard to the coronavirus, you can become infected by coming into close contact, or about 6 feet, with a person who has the virus. It's primarily spread from person to person. You can also become infected from respiratory droplets when an infected person coughs, sneezes, or talks. Finally, you may also get it by touching a surface or object that has the virus on it, and then touching your mouth, nose, or eyes. Common symptoms include fever, a temperature greater than 100.4 degrees Fahrenheit, cough, and shortness of breath. In addition to fever, cough, and shortness of breath, symptoms include headache, fatigue, muscle or body aches, chills, sore throat, new loss of taste or smell, congestion or runny nose, nausea or vomiting, and diarrhea. If you have any of these symptoms and they cannot be related to an existing condition, please stay home and contact your supervisor for further instructions. Another important method to reduce the spread of coronavirus is social distancing. It is vital that we maintain 6 feet of distance while performing our duties, but it is equally important to stay social and encourage each other. Use air high fives or other non-contact appropriate gestures to encourage each other throughout the day. Converse as usual, but maintain the 6-foot distance. Use kudos, safety, and well-being to recognize your coworkers' efforts and increase morale. When performing group huddles or meetings, meet in a large open area where 6 feet of distance can be maintained by all employees.
This section of the training deals with how we respond to emergency situations. The emergency procedures posting provides information to follow for specific emergencies such as medical, fire, robbery, etc. at our retail locations. Employees should know where it is located and familiarize themselves with it when supporting stores. If an evacuation occurs at the corporate office, proceed to the far end of the south parking lot for a head count. In the event of severe weather, proceed to the basement of the mailroom. East and West support centers should assemble in the parking lot during an evacuation and in site shelter areas during severe weather.
According to the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, workplace violence is any act or threat of physical violence, harassment, intimidation, or other threatened disruptive behavior that occurs at work. Some common causes are disputes, frustrations, domestic situations entering the workplace, and nearby criminal activity. Workplace violence can take many forms. NIOSH classifies the 4 main types as violence committed during crimes, violence by guests or recipients of services, violence by fellow employees, and violence by people with whom employees have relationships outside of work. Before we look further into workplace violence, it is important to make the distinction between workplace bullying and other types of workplace violence. Workplace bullying is defined as defensive behavior that is systematic, repeated, and involves mistreatment of another at work. More specifically, workplace bullying may include public criticism, insults, intimidation, shouting at others, teasing, and spreading malicious rumors. Workplace bullying, while almost always causes some amount of psychological harm to victims, can lead to physical violence if left unchecked. There are usually warning signs before somebody becomes violent at work. As an employee, it's vital for your safety and the safety of your coworkers to recognize these signs. Someone talks about retaliating against another individual. Someone talks about or plans to hurt themselves or somebody else. You see concerning or threatening statements regarding potential workplace violence posted on the internet or on the facility's premises. Someone brings a weapon or talks about bringing one. You see a suspicious package. Some discusses current or past violent behavior. Someone displays serious or unprovoked outburst of anger. Someone shares bizarre and unusual thoughts of concern. Someone shows signs of domestic abuse or drug or alcohol use. You may also recognize early warning signs of possible violence in the behavior of people who may become the victims of the violence. For example, when someone is afraid they are going to be hurt by someone else. Everybody goes through phases when they experience stress in their personal lives, in their careers, or both. During these difficult times, it's common for people to display behaviors similar to the warning signs for workplace violence. It's important to remember not to jump to conclusions that someone is going to become violent just because a person is late for work a few times, looks scattered occasionally, or complains about their manager. Before someone becomes violent in the workplace, there are often warning signs from that person, and sometimes from people afraid that someone else is going to hurt them. Violent behavior usually moves through 3 stages: early warning signs, intensification, and then open aggression. If you notice any signs or behaviors that may lead to workplace violence, be sure to report this to your manager, human resources, or loss control immediately. If you feel your life is in imminent danger, contact authorities. While very unlikely, active threat is still a possibility that we must prepare for. An active threat situation is an individual actively engaged in killing or attempting to kill people in a confined and populated area. In most cases, active threats use firearms, but any weapon can be used. In the event of an active threat emergency, you have 3 options. Run for safety if you can, and if safe to do so. Get out and get to a safe place. Once outside, warn others and keep them from entering. If running is not possible, hide. Find protection behind furniture or find a back room that locks. Close and lock the outside door and blockade it with furniture or heavy items, and be sure to silence your cell phone. If all else fails, fight, but only as a last resort and only if your life is in imminent danger. Attempt to incapacitate the aggressor. Be aggressive, throw items, club or stab the shooter. Do whatever you can. Remember, at this point, your life depends on it. To help ensure your safety and the safety of others, be aware of your environment and any possible dangers. Always have an escape route or place to hide in mind, and always keep coworkers and guests in mind and assist them in responding.
Hi, can I get you started with drinks?
Oh, sorry, I gotta take this.
We'll need a minute.
No, I'm here. You hear me? Stop.
Hey, you need to back up. You can't be here anymore. Get out of my face, what, man. You think I'm afraid of you? Get off, man. 911, there's a clip.
Running makes you harder to hit. It improves your chances of survival. Don't go up here.
Police, where is he?
By the bar, blue jeans, black shirt. Empty hands up, follow their instructions.
I'm in the direct line of fire if I head for either exit, but I have other options to help me survive. Guys, come on, in here. Come on. Go. Lock and barricade the door.
Both my exits are blocked by the shooter. I gotta stay hidden. I'm no victim. I'm ready for this.
He's applying direct pressure to the wound to stop the bleeding until we can find a tourniquet. In the meantime, turn off your phones and make a plan to defend yourself.
We have to fight to survive. If you control the weapon, you control the shooter. I'll go for the gun. He'll go for his arms. The bartender will go for the head.
Where is he?
We got him right here. Stand
Please,
down.
show me your hands!
Over here.
You can survive a mass shooting if you're prepared. Remember, run, hide, or fight. Run. Wherever you go, be aware of alternate exits. Quickly and cautiously evacuate in a direction away from the attacker. Don't hesitate. Seconds matter. Remember windows and emergency exits. Leave belongings behind. Keep your empty hands raised and clearly visible when exiting a building. Follow all instructions from the police. Don't stop until you're sure you've reached a safe location. Hide. If there is no safe escape route, find a good hiding place. Lock and barricade the door. Silence cell phones. Prepare a defense plan. Fight. Fight only as a last resort. Use available objects as improvised weapons. Use teamwork and surprise. A coordinated ambush can incapacitate an attacker. You're fighting for your life. Don't fight fair. Stop the bleed. A victim can die of uncontrolled blood loss in 5 minutes or less. Apply pressure or a tourniquet to control severe bleeding. Go to fbi.gov/survive to learn more.
Thank you for completing today's training. Always remember that your efforts and actions have direct effects on safety outcomes. We appreciate all that you do and hope you will keep the mindset, safety hazards and accidents, not on my watch,